What happened here?
Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. Hello, I am Arohi Tyagi, Associate Dean here at AAFT Online. And I, on behalf of the entire AAFT Online family, welcome you all to this webinar session on the future of real estate. What does it hold? And what could be more exciting than to have with us today Dr. Reema Bali? Well, she's a distinguished academician and accomplished professional with over a decade of experience in knowledge management, education, and leadership. Holding an LLM from the University of East Anglia and an extensive background in legal and academic roles, Dr. Bali's career has been defined by her strategic insights and expertise in managing complex academic and corporate environments. As the CEO of Alpha Partners and Vice Chair at the Indian National Association of Legal Professionals, she brings a unique multidisciplinary perspective that bridges law, education, and architecture. Dr. Bali's research interests include international taxation and legal frameworks, adding a critical layer of policy insight into the academic discourse. Her leadership in various professional bodies further emphasizes her influence and commitment to shaping future professionals. So, without further ado, let me welcome Dr. Bali. Hello, ma'am. How are you doing?
Namaste. Thank you, Arohi. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, and thank you to AAFT for inviting me for this webinar. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
The pleasure is all ours, ma'am, to have you here with us today for such a wonderful session, which we are looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Okay, so to all the attendees here, in case you have any questions during the talk, you can put them in the Q&A box, which is located right below on your screens, and we'll be taking them up soon. So, ma'am, all yours, we can begin.
Thank you, Arohi, so much. Thank you. And as Arohi said, the session is divided into mainly three parts. So once I finish one part, I will then have an opportunity to look at a few Q&As if they are relevant for that part, or else we will then just shift all the question answers to the end of the session. Feel free to put in your questions and I will take it as we go ahead. Okay, we can start. So soon if you can share the PPT. Thank you. So as you know, you have come to a session which talks about future of real estate and how environmental regulations are shaping the industry in India. Before we move on, the introduction, the session here will look at the environmental regulations that are part of the real estate industry and the impact and the various challenges that we might be facing, and how does the future for the real estate industry in India looks like. That is where what we'll be looking at during this session. Next slide. Next one. Okay, so very interesting. The real estate sector in India is, I'm sure, in the recent times, you've seen there has been a surge property prices. There has, especially post-COVID, there has been a surge in sales, luxury market, residential, commercial. All these terminologies that I'm using are part of the real estate sector, and these are kind of the real estate assets that are available in the sector. And if you see that the market by 2030 is going to reach USD of 1 trillion. And I think a couple of factors that are responsible is, of course, the economic growth that India is witnessing right now. It's one of the top economic growth numbers that it has. We have some years ago allowed FDI, or the foreign direct investment, fully into the real estate sector. Of course, getting a lot of investment within this sector. India demographically has seen a lot of urbanization happening from rural to urban areas, requiring more houses. And then there was, of course, other government initiatives like Housing for All, or the PMAY scheme that is available. We are also looking at not just the major metropolitan cities that we have, or the tier 1 cities that we call them in real estate terminology. We are looking at a lot of tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which are a lot of emerging markets. I'm sure you must have seen, places like Mohali, places like FDI is foreign direct investment, Samir, where the people who are not of Indian residents are able to invest in India. And also they invest through funds, which are also known as private equity funds. So you must have seen that.
Ma'am, you're not audible. Reema ma'am cannot hear you.
Ma'am,
Uh,
we can't hear you, ma'am. Your audio is on mute.
Reema ma'am, I think she's not able to hear us.
Just a second.
Yes, now you're audible, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. So I'll just repeat what I was saying, was that these couple of these factors and other factors giving the real estate sector a boom in the Indian economy, and hence a lot of help from the government is also being put in, so that we have the real estate sector, one of the top 5 contributing to the economic growth of the country. Moving on, so when we look at the real estate sector, Prasoon, next slide, please. When we look at the real estate sector, very interestingly, a regulatory framework, which means that which laws are governing this sector. It is a lot of interaction of a lot of legal laws, legal acts, legal rules, bylaws, codes, and a lot of things. It is not just simple that, okay, there's one real estate law that is available, or when students ask me where we can study from, is there a real estate book? No, it does not work like that. Real estate as a cycle is where first we look at, if you look at the real estate cycle, is identifying funds, buying a land for that fund, starting construction, and before construction there's land due diligence, starting construction, handing over. Then there's a banks involved when, if you're financing that thing. And then, of course, when you go on and on, there is RWA, there is, second sales happening, channel partners. So if you look at this, at every stage in the real estate cycle, there is a new law that is there, and all of these laws do not work in silos. They will interact with each other at some way or the other. So if you look at this slide, I have given a couple of important, or the main laws that are available, which is, of course, the Indian Contract Act. Then we have the Transfer of Property Act, Environment Protection Act, Law of Torts, Stamp Duty or Registration Act is also there. So if you look at the regulatory framework, there's a mishmash of lot of laws which is there. And at every stage, like if said that you have to go and buy a house, you will have to do an agreement to sell. Then there's a sale agreement. Then you go to the registrar to register the property in your name in the first place. And then, of course, then you take possession and then you have the property papers. If it is mortgage, then of course there's a bank involved. So there's a third party that's also involved. So apart from these laws that are already available, we have certain stakeholders when we talk about real estate. Of course, we have the developer side, the one who's making those uh, real estate asset. Then we have another, which is a financer, which could be the banking side, which is putting in the money. And then, of course, we have the buyer or the final consumer or the investor, depending on for what purpose is the property being taken for. We'll remain to the regulatory side, but we'll also remain only towards the environmental side of the regulation. Over the last few years, the environmental law or the environment, or when I'm sure everybody has heard the term of ESG, which has taken a lot of precedence and predominance over other things which are there in the real estate. They're very important. I'm sure right now, if you are in the Delhi NCR area, you are witnessing pollution because of construction sometimes, and the government has the power to stop construction for some period of time, and it will not happen till the time the pollution settles down, and then you can start construction again. And because of these unforeseen circumstances, we see a lot of delays in construction happening. But however, because there's government intervening, you cannot really do anything about it. Hence, there is so much more importance being given to the environmental side of real estate. It also looks at deforestation to get the land, what kind of land is being used to make this real estate asset that you're trying to make. Is the the surrounding demography being affected? Is their livelihood being affected? All of that is also being taken care of. So instead of looking at all of this, we will now concentrate mainly on the environmental aspect or the environmental regulatory rules that are available with us. So the environmental regulations in India, so in the legal time frame, 1986 is not very old. I know right now it looks like almost 40 years old, but in the legal time frame or the legal era, we do not think it is very old, because the Indian Contract Act is almost 150 years old, which is 1872, and it is still very much relevant and very much used in every sphere that we are in right now. So, but anyways, a pretty recent act, and this act also came into being not because we thought that we should be doing it, but of course, I'm sure everybody here know how laws are made. The parliament, the lower house, the upper house, and the president signs it. However, there's another way when we make it through the international treaties that we sign. So India is signatory to an international treaty where it is compulsory for us to also have environmental regulations in India as per the international standards. And that was why the EPA, or the Environment Protection Act, came to place in 1986 the first time. EPA is also, so there are two ways. Once you're signatory to an international a treaty or an agreement, you can put that act as it is within your country, because let's say there are many countries who are participating. You can put the act as it is within your country. Or the second thing you can do is you can get the act, you can tweak it to your own jurisdiction or to your own ways, because India is a very vast country. We have a coastal line, we have mountains, we have plains, we have desert, we have everything. So you have to tweak it to your jurisdiction. So we did the second one, which is we tweaked it to our own requirements depending on what we required as a country at that point in time. And it has seen a lot of changes also over the time in the last 40 years. So of course, Environment Protection Act being one of the most foundational legislation for us. It also includes things like air pollution control, water pollution control, and sound pollution. They all come within this. We also have something which is called the ECBC, or the Energy Conservation Building Code. This is more so from the viewpoint of how the building consumes energy, and how they are being, how good you are in conserving energy. The third is, of course, a very controversial authority that we have, which is called the NGT, or the National Green Tribunal. It's an environmental court. When we say it's a tribunal, tribunal usually refers to a authority that you go to for a specific purpose. Like NGT is a National Green Tribunal, which means it is an environmental court, and that is why you will be going to the NGT for. Like we have the tax tribunal or the company law tribunal, you go to the tribunal for specific purposes. Hence NGT, you go only for the environmental purposes. Then a very recent act is a Plastic Waste Management Act, or the rules that we have, which are very recent as 2016. So this is a gist of what is most relevant to us in terms of laws and regulations right now, and the most important ones while you are making a project or while you are undertaking a project. We will do a little bit of, I will discuss a case study later on which involves NGT and see how naughty it is and what all it does. Anyways, till the time, next slide, let's move on. Why this is important and it is gaining a lot of importance is the fact that we have these targets for and these are also, if you see all these targets are coming from the international perspective, that we have these mandatory requirements to lessen our carbon footprint. We have to have net carbon credits हमारे zero हो जाने चाहिए by a certain year, because we are part of these international treaties. Then of course, as we move ahead, urbanization moving on, of course we know that the water levels are going below, so there's mandatory rainwater harvesting provisions that are there. There's waste management system that have to be in place, and not just mere compliance, these will also ensure a lot of energy conservation and a lot of sustainable living. It has now got us to a word which is called sustainable, and I'm sure everybody has heard of it, and you have heard of it in many aspects, from fashion to living to sustainable building. So I think sustainable being the buzzword these days. Sustainability, if I had to explain it in a layman's word, is that if there's a resource that is being used, you use it to its optimum capacity and not waste it. Okay, so hence we are looking at sustainable living, that you are using your resources in the best possible manner and not wasting even one bit of it. There is no wastage happening there. So if we look at sustainability and coming to this slide, which talks about sustainability and talks about sustainable real estate, we have now there is a trend of telling, and sustainable and green buildings would not mean literally that you are green in color, and if you have a couple of plants here, plants there, and you're a green building. It does not really mean that. It would mean, sorry, yeah, it would mean more in the sense how sustainable your building is. It would mean how conserving your energy the building is, conserving and using the energy in the most optimal manner. So if you look, there are a couple of certifications that are being given these days, which is LEED, there is GRIHA, there is IGBC Council in every state. There are chapters in every state which give you these certifications, and people proudly they are displaying these certifications, because that is how the building is sustainable for them. I am not sure if a sustainable building would fetch you a higher price, but definitely it is definitely a point in where people are attracted. It will definitely have a better market, and because of a lot of government initiatives, I think this is also going in the right direction for us, right? Somebody also, I think, mentioned solar energy here. Of course, solar energy is something that is being used vastly. The gestation period, of course, it is a little longer for solar energy, but instead of looking at short-term gains, I'm sure if we look at a longer term, not just a gain, but longer term sustainability, longer term how better we are using energy, I think that kind of solves the problem for in terms of when we use solar energy. Moving on, if you look at Prasoon, if you can change the slide. if you look at, so we have couple of when we look at the challenges that the real estate stakeholders have, and if primarily we look at a stakeholder from the developer point of view, if somebody is a developer, when I say the person is a developer, I'm saying the person who is actually making the real estate asset for you. Okay, so let's say if a person is developing a residential units for you, or a society, somebody's making a society, let's for example, it is DLF, it is Supertech, or it is JP. People like those people are developers because they are pulling in money and then making and then selling it away. So that is a developer. Major challenges that the developer face, at least when all this green revolution in this sense started and sustainability started, I think the first major problem was that people were not aware of it. I think the consumer awareness in respect of what is sustainability, what is green building, what is carbon footprint, किसी को पता ही नहीं था. These terms were very much a buzzword for sure, because we were getting it from the SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, which we were a part of also, and hence we had to inculcate them in our system somehow. But just by somehow they were only on paper. They were not really implemented. They were not really used in the sense and in the right sense and spirit, if I would say. So I feel that now, I think for the last 10 to 12 years, or year or a decade and a half, we have come a very long way. People know what they're buying. People know what green buildings are. People know what sustainability is. People are moving towards a lot of sustainable consciousness and sustainable lifestyle. And because of this awareness, I think they are ready to pay a higher price for it, because let's say if a building has a certain kind of rating, or they're using solar energy, or they're using a waste treatment plant, or they're using rainwater harvesting plant within the society, and let's say those societies are charging a little bit of premium price for these kind of facilities, people are now ready to pay for it. They might not be ready to pay for it 10 years ago, or decade and a half, or decade and a half earlier, but now they're ready to pay for it because there's more consumer awareness. People are talking about it. People are seeing the difference. And of course, the challenges of water levels going down, the environment and everything. And of course, I'm sure this winter itself, the people in NCR, there's so many people moving out of NCR just for the winters, so that they could be in an area where the AQI is better. If I had to give a example which is recent. Then the other problem is, of course, there is compliance cost. Each of these certifications, or each of these, if we have to do an environment impact assessment, which is a necessary for every project that is being done, if we have to do something like that, there is a cost attached to it. There's a compliance cost. Coming back to my earlier problem, that not many people know about it. Also, when it had just started, that you had to get an EIA done, which is called as an environment impact assessment. If I had to say, not many people knew, first of all, wo tha kya aur usme karna kya hai. Usually, there's a form that had to be filled, and whoever was the first mover in that, or whoever filled that form in the first go, then everybody just started copying, and it just became like like just on paper. Acha, EIA ho rakha hai, and then it's just another form or an appendix that you have to, and that people were attaching, the builders, developers were attaching with the project report and sending it. However, now that is not the case. The EIA is taken very seriously. EIA is the environment impact assessment. So basically, every project that is undertaken by a developer has to go through an EIA, which is the environment impact assessment. It is a report which talks about how, as the name suggests, how the environment is going to be impacted if your project comes up. Okay, and that report will be made before your project is cleared by any of the government authorities. So now there are professionals who do this, who know what they're doing. Earlier on, like I said, it was just something on paper which was being done and submitted. No, not any longer. There are consultants who do this, and it is a separate line of profession. People are doing this, and of course, it everything comes at a cost. So and there are projects which are also not given a go ahead because the EIA was not sufficient, or it was lacking, or it was not done in the seriousness in which it should have been done. So environment impact assessment. So it has a cost involved, but I think all of that cost is should be added in the project cost itself, and then of course the project should be taken through that. Um, there there has been a little bit of I'm not sure execution wise how good it has been, but after RERA, the Real Estate Regulation Authority Act, which came out in 2016, there has been a little bit. Uh, the ask was to move through a single window compliance or single window uh, procedure, but that did not happen because you'll have to take fire approval separately, water approval separately, other kind of approvals. EIA alag jagah se ho raha hai. So because of these many different approvals that have to be taken, these are usually known as regulatory hurdles for the developer, and this kind of if they are not smooth, if it is difficult for the developer to get this, if they are not done in a smoother fashion, then it kind of setbacks the developer in adopting other sustainable measures. Like the basic one, it is becoming a difficulty for him to fulfill. How will we go ahead and fulfill the sustainable one, which are like which are right now deemed to be as frills attached to the project? Now they're no longer frills. Of course, they're very much part of the project and they have to be done. But definitely that is a hindrance. It's a regulatory hurdle that most of the developers see it as in that manner, and they do not, and they really don't want to get into it. And if it's easier to get it done through some source, they use that and not actually do it uh, the way in the letter and spirit how it should be done, right? Any questions in this part? I'm ready to take if there are any, or otherwise we can go ahead.
There's one question by Samir, and he's asking, you talked about FDI. So what does FDI mean?
FDI, I had answered that question. FDI is foreign direct investment, Samir. It means that earlier on, only Indian residents could invest in property in India. However, the government have now opened doors to people from outside of India who are not Indian citizens. They can also invest in India. FDI is foreign direct investment.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. That was
Yeah.
it. We can move ahead.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, moving on. Despite these hurdles, or despite what we are seeing that is happening, there's a lot being done in this area, and um, there is a lot of scope, of course, that is there. Uh, Primarily because the government is pushing it for us. They are pushing it in the sense they would like to see people invest in green energy. They would like to see buildings get certifications like LEED and IGBC, or some ratings for their buildings, and become sustainable on their own. There are a tax benefit given if you are investing in a certain kind of project, which is, let's say, green, or which is sustainable in nature. However, all of this is coming from the fact that there's a lot of market demand for the same. People are more aware. People are more aware of what is happening around them, what is happening to their environment around them. They are seeing that something is going downhill. They see it in the everyday air that they are breathing or where they are staying, and they think that if this is what is going to make it more better for their living standards, better for the next generations to come. So I think because of the market demand and the government initiatives that is being pushed into, I think that is what is driving the sector in this direction. And of course, how we can not forget about technology, and how technology is now helping. Of course, we everybody knows about 3D modeling, and adoption of AI and Internet of Things in property management, and how real estate is being managed in that manner. uh, so I think, of course, technology is interdisciplinary in the sense it is getting into all sectors that we know of, and real estate is no uh, is no exception to this rule as well. And I'm sure IT and AI definitely is helping us there as well, especially in real estate property management. I'm sure it is going to be a game changer there. Prasoon, next slide, please. Uh, couple of case studies here, but I think one of my favorite ones is the Okla Bird Sanctuary. Some couple of years back, me and a colleague of mine had written a paper on Okla Bird Sanctuary. If you are from around the area, which is NCR or Noida, you must be aware of a bird sanctuary here, which is called the Okla Bird Sanctuary. And if you're not aware of it, you might be aware of a metro station by the same name, which is called as the Okla Bird Sanctuary Metro Station. And if you know about wildlife and bird sanctuaries, these sanctuaries, the name given to them is because they are part of the restricted area, and then they have a protected area around them. So Okla Bird Sanctuary was here always. There are migratory birds coming here, and it had a protected area around it. However, there is around Okla Bird Sanctuary, there is a Noida Delhi direct way, which connects Delhi to Noida. And because of a lot of traffic and the lights that were there on the DNT, the birds were getting disturbed. There was a patch of time where in the evening the lights had to be dimmed down because of the migratory season of the birds. However, the Okla Bird Sanctuary, or the birds, I must say, they finally lost out because earlier on the protected area around the bird sanctuary was 1 kilometer. And if we looked at 1 kilometer, then I would be sitting in that protected area, which means that there should be no development in that area. And if you see another 1 kilometer that side, that's Delhi. From that side, that is Kalindi Kunj again. So, which would again mean that you are sitting in the protected area. 1 kilometer was then brought down to, I think around 100 or 200 meters, and it was cut down there. And then as the biggest irony that we have a metro station bang right opposite to the Okla Bird Sanctuary, and it is named after the Okla Bird Sanctuary, whereas it is a restricted area, it's a protected area. You cannot have development around it, leave aside a metro station. But yes, that is what it is. And when I said that I'll tell you how naughty NGT is, NGT, or the National Green Tribunal, is what had played a role in getting this protected area lessened by 1 kilometer and then 200 meters. And then finally, I think it's only 10 meters or something around the Okla Bird Sanctuary. However, all case studies are not as depressing. We have brilliant examples of how certain campuses or how certain developers have come up, and they have inculcated the best practices, best sustainable practices. They are green campuses, like the Infosys Green Campus or the DLF Cyber City. I'm sure if you're from the area, you would know. They have their own rainwater harvesting system. Their buildings are all energy efficient, so they're made in a way that there are offices around, and then you have a lot of restaurants and other commercial areas around it. So we have a lot of case studies which have done very well. They're good examples of how people have uh, uh, adhered to sustainable laws. They have adhered to best practices. They have shown as an example of how brilliantly things can be done within the legal framework, and it works very well, and it's not necessary that it's going to fail. So we have enough case studies to look at that also. Coming to my last part of my presentation is what is the future of real estate in India. Of course, keeping in mind that we need to have we're looking at reducing our carbon footprint every year, and our goal is ultimately net zero carbon footprint by 2070. And I'm sure the real estate sector's long-term vision is to be able to have cities that are able to achieve that, which will help us achieve this with sustainable practices, efficient energy, and of course renewable energy, which is going to be playing a very big part. Then, of course, not recently, but yes, we have a very interesting concept of circular economy, which means that you are so it talks about reducing, reusing, and recycling. These are the three pillars of circular economy, and all of this is being used in the real estate sector, and all of this is being used in the real estate sector, and achieving a circular economy because it believes in reducing, reusing, and recycling is what circular economy is. And of course, last and what we are proponents of are sustainable practices. Let us not look at 10 years or 15 years. Sustainable practices are some little changes in your lifestyle that you can do, which are sustainable, which without a drastic change in your lifestyle, little tweaking in how you are living, how you are cooking, how you are commuting to work, or how you are going short distances. These are very little lifestyle changes that you are able to do, and because of these changes, they have very long term impact. Because of these little lifestyle changes that you have been able to do, we look at a very long term impact, which is a very positive impact that we do. Like if I had told my mother, let's say 10 years back, that we have to segregate our waste, nobody's going to listen. बहुत लोग आज भी नहीं सुनते हैं. But now it has become like a way of life for us. Because why? Because the government people said that we are not going to collect your waste if it's not segregated. Now what will you do? You will adhere, right? So law of course works in this way, that unless there's a penalty attached to it, people are not going to listen to you. So I think that kind of helps us in achieving something which will be longer in terms of giving the impact will be longer lasting. If we look at stakeholders that we have in the real estate sector, which is of course developers, investors, and finally the policy makers. I think I'll start from the policy makers, because I think there is where the the that is where the key lies to finally becoming sustainable, or finally having something which you can proudly call sustainable. It should not be something which is like okay, abhi let us अभी फटाफट से ऐसा कर देते हैं, then बाद में देखी जाएगी. No, that should not be the because we have seen these things happening. People kind of do illegal construction in various areas, and then they say, okay, when the order comes, tab dekha jayega. And sometimes the order doesn't come for 50 years, or it doesn't never comes at all, right? Because precedents aise reh chuke hain, people think that it will never happen, it will never change. It will change, and this is where the policy makers come into play. Where they have laws that are stringent, they will make laws which help you uh, adopt sustainable practices. They help you adopt best practices. If the policy is in that nature, if the policy makers make policies, the rules are of that nature. Like I gave you the example of segregating your waste. If it is that way, there is no way that anybody is not going to follow. ऐसा कभी भी नहीं होगा. Everybody will follow in line, and that is what the laws are for in the first place. Second, I will look at investors. So what does the investor want as a businessman? Investors are looking for best return on the money that they're investing. I think if the policy makers are doing what they are, as per this, if they're doing what is their job and they're doing it well, I'm sure the investors will also be attracted towards projects which are sustainable in nature, ESG compliant. And I have seen investors, there'll be a time when investors will say कि अच्छा इसका ESG report is not okay, we are not going to invest here, or this project, the EIA is not okay, we will not invest here, right? So we have seen enough of these things. These are little changes, but I'm sure, and especially when I talk about FTI, somebody had a question here. If it's a foreign investor, unke liye wahan pe ESG and all is a given, because they started much earlier than we started. So I'm sure if it's a foreign investor or a foreign stakeholder here, they will definitely have this as a basic demand or a tenant, that if this is not here, we are not going to invest, we're not going to go ahead with this, right? So if all this is made mandatory, then of course the investors will also invest in the right kind of projects. And then developers will be forced to make only those kind of projects which the investors are willing to invest in. They will do the required certification, they will do the compliances that are required and are mandatory in the first place. And in the end, they will also embrace the technologies that are the best for the project, that are best going ahead. They are futuristic looking, they're innovative in nature. because everybody is looking for that edge over the competitor. So I think so it's like a circle. They work in a one after the other, and they are back of each other. So it's like a cycle that they work in. And if the law is good, the investors are going to come, developer are develop. So it's like a circle, and the circle is smooth enough if everybody in the cycle is doing the job that they're supposed to do. Um, if I had to conclude here, of course, the environmental part of the regulation is very important these days. It is definitely a newer part in the regulatory framework of real estate in India. Definitely, but not the easiest to follow. It is not the I would say not the favorite of everyone, but I think it has now become essential. It has become mandatory. Sustainability is the need of the hour, and it is also future looking if we have to sustain what we have right now. And with that, I will finish my presentation as it says conclusion. And the floor is open to questions. Arohi, it's open to you. If there are questions, I'll be more than happy to take them. And thank you, everyone.
Yes, ma'am, sure. Thank you everyone for building a keen interest in this. And thank you, ma'am, so much for explaining everything in detail. So before we move on to the questions, I would just want to inform all the attendees and learners over here that we at AAFT do have an online diploma course in real estate management, wherein, you can learn the art of investment and management. You can also learn the valuation and the market changes which are going on in real estate. So in case you're interested to know more details about the course, you can call us at this number, or you can drop in an email to us and we'll be happy to get in touch with you. So ma'am, talking about the Q&A, we do have certain questions coming in, and let me take the first one by Megha. Megha says that kindly highlight the relevance or improvement points of RERA in the real estate market in given, the approvals which have been given with RERA.
Right. Yes, I was just reading the question by Megha. So Megha, the real estate came around in the RERA, or the Act, the Real Estate Regulation Act. It came around in 2016, and usse pehle everything was just going on its own. Different acts were at play, but now then we had one particular place to go to, which was RERA. You kind of register your project with it, you get the registration, and then you start. And if you see, nowadays people are kind of giving their they are advertising their projects as RERA registered है, इसका number भी होता है उसके साथ. So it is definitely to answer your question, it has definitely streamlined a lot of developers. It has definitely pruned a lot of people who were not serious, or who were just fly by night developers, or who were just defrauding investors with their hard-earned money. It has definitely added a lot of credibility. RERA also has state chapters. You can go to the relevant tribunal which is there, and you have to register. And then there's escrow account provisions, which means that the account money will come into a separate account which has to be used for the project itself. So the what should I say, the defrauding capability has definitely come down. It has really helped the consumer, at least. Also, it's streamlined a lot of developers, and it has become a little bit easier for them also.
Yes, absolutely, ma'am. We have another question by Deepak, and he says that a study by IITM Pune and IIT Roorkee say that urban homes are major air pollution sources in 39 cities. The article was published in TQI today, and he says that this seems like real estate sector to bear more strict regulations. So what is your opinion on it?
Definitely. The pollution by construction, and then by industry, and then by traffic is series में आएगा pollution. So definitely, it becomes a lot more responsibility of the real estate sector to curtail this. It's not that it cannot be curtailed; it can be curtailed. just because it is not mandatory right now. जैसे ही mandatory हो जाएगा कि ऐसे construction नहीं करनी है. जैसे I was giving an example that in NCR, if there is the smog or the fog problem that happens, the state government will stop construction there and then. And we have seen it personally. They will shut it for 15 days, no construction happening. And actually, people are adhering to it. And if somebody is doing construction on the sly, there's a complaint that goes, and then the construction is again stopped. So there are steps that are being taken, and there are things that are moving in the right direction.
Absolutely, ma'am. We have another question by Sameer, and he's saying that IGBC certifications, are they compulsory, and which certification, what else is required, and which builders are currently practicing sustainable construction?
So I'll start from the last one. So yes, of course, from my example, some of the campuses that were made, like the Infosys campus, is definitely sustainable. The DLF Cyber City, the example that I gave you, they're sustainable example of sustainability. Certification, Lena, is not compulsory yet. So it is more like a reward that you're getting. You applied for something and you got it. It is more like that. But there are people moving towards the certification more and more. They really want to go towards this, and because that gives their building definitely another edge over the others. And of course, while you are doing sustainable practices, why not show it off and lead by example that this is what we're doing and it's possible and other people can also do.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am, for answering that. Brinda has a question that by doing a diploma course or a master's course in real estate, what are the job opportunities in India which we can have? And is there a growing demand for professionals in real estate sector?
Okay, great. Good question. So first of all, till a few years back, there was nothing called as a real estate, profession, real estate professional, or we had these brokers all over around us who were not qualified to be, become brokers. Now, to become a broker, you have to be registered with the RERA as well. वहाँ पे broker का registration अलग है. So it is not really an organized sector, but we are moving towards it becoming an organized sector. We have international property consultant or IPCs that are already, JLL, CBRE, Cushman. They're already in India for the last 20 years now. They are into broking, leasing, all of that. So the profession is definitely in demand. Let me tell you that I have been a teacher in this area for the last 8 years, so I know how well my students are doing, and there is definitely demand. Real estate is definitely looking at increasing in the next couple of years, and and it's a sustainable profession because everybody needs a home to stay and an office to work. So you will need real estate assets around you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that highlight that, real estate is a booming industry and definitely there is a lot of scope here involved. Sayam is asking that, ma'am, can you talk about regulations which are required in tier 2 cities?
So Sayam, I did read your question, but the regulations will not be divided between cities. Regulations are pan-India. They are applicable to all. It could be state-wise for sure. It could be a different in a state from one. Let's say Gujarat में different होगी, Maharashtra में different हो सकती है, but regulations सब cities के लिए same है. And developers who are functioning in these cities have to adhere to these regulations, and the faster they start doing, the better it is for them and also for the real estate sector.
Great, ma'am. Also, ma'am, what are the critical legal considerations for ensuring compliance with local zoning and land use regulations?
Right. So I think, Arohi, the main problem is the first step itself when you're identifying land or a piece of land. We have seen movies being made and, fun being this thing that, you are selling a land which already belongs to somebody else. And it happens in real life. It happens all the time. So hence, this is a place where, the regulations come in place. There's a due diligence that needs to be done for the land, that, who are the owners. And, we go back when we're doing a due diligence for land, we go back as far as 7 owners, just to make sure that there is no impediment in between. कोई case तो नहीं चल रहा land पे पहले से, कोई problem तो नहीं है, all of that. And this is not कि tier 1 में है, tier 2 में, tier 3 में नहीं. It is all over, and this itna basic due diligence every developer, every stakeholder should do for themselves, right? And other regulations, basic to hai hai RERA wali, that you have to follow. Everybody should follow. And now the developers are, you know, they are looking at they are kind of promoting themselves by saying that we follow so many. It's like become like a thing to advertise.
Got it, ma'am. Appa Jadhav is asking that what about water management and its quality? Does it also have a role in real estate when it comes to
Oh,
regulation?
definitely. Well, yes, yes, there are water management. Yes, of course. Like I said, some places there is mandatory rainwater harvesting. Then in some places, I think in Bangalore, if I'm not mistaken, uh, the water levels have gone low so much that there's a sanction in terms of rationing. How much water is being used by every colony. Of course, all there are regulations on that. There is Water Pollution Control Act that is available. There is rainwater harvesting. There's water management that is available. There are enough regulations. Sirf wait hai that everybody follows the regulations. Laws are already in place.
Yeah, and any check on these laws, like I reside in Noida, and I know that there is this law here that every society needs to have their own sewage plant. But then, how
Sewage
many
treatment plant.
societies are actually following it? I mean, that's a
Not
question.
many. Yes, not many. Arohi, the sad part is that everybody, especially in the real estate and in this sector, people are operating with the fact that okay, jab hoga dekha jayega.
Hmm.
So तब तक तो चल ही रहा है ऐसा. So we have so
Absolutely.
many colleges in Delhi which are based on this. So
Absolutely, I agree with you. Okay, Mumtaz has a question that any regulation or law where there could be negotiations between the owner-developer ratio 40 is to 60.
ratio with what?
And that's not mentioned. Any regulation or law where there could be a negotiation between owner-developer ratio 40 is to 60. Mumtaz, you need
Okay.
to be a little more
Yeah,
specific.
a little bit more specific. If you are, I'll be able to answer that question. We can take it later also if you want, not a problem.
Right, sure. If you can add on that.
Yeah.
Okay, till then we have another question here by Bikas, and he's
Mhm.
saying that, ma'am, can you suggest any topics for PhD in real estate? And what are the
Mhm.
opportunities after doing a PhD, and would it be really helpful for me?
Okay. So because usually PhD, when you take that route through a PhD, we're looking at you wanting to become a researcher or an academician. But however, if your topic is relevant to the industry, you could also get into the industry. If you're looking at real estate, of course, sustainability and ESG is the buzzword. And if you have a problem relating to that, and if your topic relates to that, I think that will be a topic that many people will love to pick up with you and supervise or help you in your PhD. So I think that is the area which you should be looking at.
All right. Um, okay, Mumtaz has said that developer asks 60% if he's given the contract for construction and 40% remains with the owner.
Are you talking, Mumtaz? So let me make it clear. So are you talking about uh, where you are giving your land and the builder is building floors on it, because then you remain part
Okay.
owner. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that you become part owner of this. And so, Mumtaz, there is no law on this, but then this is governed by normal contract and property act that we have in place. Um, a lot of this happens on those private plots of land that, and it is happening in Delhi where, um, yeah, like that's what she's saying, that we had the land and given it for construction. So usually the developer will offer you one of the floors um, in return, or maybe two floors in return, and the other two he's going to sell. So this is available in cities or in states where you can sell floor wise. Like in UP, it's not allowed yet, but Delhi, a lot of this is happening. So Mumtaz, to answer your question, it will depend on the contract that you have with the developer. There's no rule about it. There's no rule right now on it.
Okay. All right. That was an eye-opener actually, that there is no rule regarding that.
There's no business, there could be some industry standard, but kahin likha nahi hai law mein.
Oh, okay. Okay, Sameer has asked a question. I think it's got lost
Yes,
somewhere.
Mumtaz, we can negotiate. Yes, you can negotiate.
Okay. So,
Yes.
Sameer had two questions. I think one was that what according to you is the future, vertical segment or the horizontal expansion?
So India is the seventh largest in terms of land in the world. So we have a lot of land, but then it's something which is static. It was not changing, right? So of course it is. We will eventually, with the population increase that we have, we will eventually look at a vertical expansion itself and not a horizontal one. But I think if we if अगर अभी थोड़ा सा हम संभल जाते हैं in terms of our habits and in terms of how we are living, I think I think we should be comfortable and not regret our decisions later on.
Yeah, absolutely right. Sayam has a question that how can one become a developer or builder and how to get educated in this field? I think Sayam, first you need to do a diploma with us and then
It's
move
true.
ahead.
That is true. So that all the technical and legal jargon that I was using, you will know what it means. So yes, I think a little bit of some formal training education is required so that you don't fail in the projects that you're doing. Of course, as a developer and a builder, the first thing you would need is a lot of capital and a lot of patience because the gestation time is very high. The time in the sense it will take a year or two to build, or maybe 5 years to build, depending on the size of the project. And then, of course, a brilliant marketing team so that they can sell everything that you have made at a very premium price. But yes, a little bit of formal training in that would be required so that you know some nuances that you would not know on your own, and not wait to experience and then know on your own. It would be nice if you have some formal training in it.
Great. Monisha is asking that how to gauge our interest in working in the real estate sector. Also, I would want to add to this question that how is the real estate market for women? Uh, I mean, is it male dominated or are women also entering into this sector?
Yes, primarily male dominated. I hate to say it, but it is it. But another very good thing it is that women are doing very well in this sector. They are climbing the ladder very fast because of certain qualities that they bring into the real estate sector. And I think it's a great sector for women. I have taught so many students, women included, female students, and they're doing brilliant, and they have not faced any discrimination like we would do in other sectors. It's an open to all sector. Formally, training and educations are very recent in this, but it's a very welcoming sector, open to all. Whoever has the capability, if it be it selling, be it building, be it construction, everybody is welcome. It is also, I think, it comes from the fact that a lot of engineers come into this field, and very few girls become engineers, and hence that kind of translates into this sector as well. But because things are changing there, things have also the change is also percolated here. So it is becoming, it's becoming almost 50-50 now. So it's great. If you're looking at something like this, it's great.
And how to gauge whether you are actually interested in real estate?
Oh, that is it's a very personal ask, I think, of what your interest lies in. And it is something, if I had to take an example from one of the verticals, that, if you think you're very good at marketing, or if you're very good at selling, but you might not be very good at selling houses. So, that's a very personal ask, and you have to see what you can do.
Yeah, I think you have to contemplate that yourself and then
Yes, yes.
the industry. Right. So there is another question, ma'am, asking from a new developer point of view, what are the things required before constructing a standalone building of 20 units? Whom should we concern for more ideas?
Um, so first of all, it depends which state you are in, because every state will have a different law relating to there's a FSI or a floor area ratio, FAR. That will depend which state you are in. Then how many floors uske liye allowed hai ki nahi hai. Then there's a land use. If you can do that kind of construction on that land or not. Then of course the other regulatory things come play. So it depends. A very specific question. It depends on a lot of things. You I can give my mail or something if you have follow-up questions. Feel free to ask.
Sure. We can share your email ID and then
Sure.
we
Yeah.
can meet with you. Okay, Megha has a question that do you think all the compliances related to environment, sustainability, and certification shall be under one umbrella along with the RERA approval, which checks the credibility to a developer or the project?
Yeah, make a brilliant question. And when RERA was coming into picture, this was what the developers were thinking, that it is going to be a single window system. However, that did not happen. But that is the ask of the hour by all the stakeholders. There should be one window, single window, where we get all compliances done. And if we are not fulfilling, then of course you are free to say no. But then if it is one window, that'll be great. But this is I know your question where it's coming from, and it's a good question. And especially the environmental and sustainable, these kind of regulations, EIA जो मैंने आपको बताया, but it goes to a different authority altogether. But it'll be nice. Everybody is pitching for that, so let's see.
Great. I think that was really nicely answered. Okay, Sameer has another question that any degree holder could do this diploma to get into real estate. Sameer, you can please give us a call at the number. I'll just share the number again, I think, and that will be really helpful for you in case, you need any queries or any questions if you have, related to the course for all the learners, in fact, or the attendees here. What are the requirements and what all you need to have done before in case, you want to do this diploma program. So you can connect with us at this number or drop in an email and we'll be happy to connect with you. You can also go through our brochure in detail, what all we cover. Also, we keep on having expert sessions like today's with Dr. Bali. We keep on having such kind of expert sessions also. And all of this you can do from the comfort of your own homes. So you can inquire about that from us. All right, ma'am, before I end the session, I know we are running out of time. So before I end, your one last advice to all these enthusiasts who are here and who want to make their mark in the real estate sector.
My only advice is whatever you do, just do it with a lot of integrity and be ethical. And I think being ethical is the only requirement of the real estate sector right now. And just sticking to rules, I think, will kind of solve 90% of your problems, and the rest, of course, is based on luck and your destiny, where you are. And but for real estate, there's no looking back. There's a lot of scope for everyone. There's a place for everyone. There is so many verticals that are available where you can get in, and especially just real estate management. Itne verticals hain, and so many international companies are here who are working in this. And I think the sky is the limit, and just go ahead, go for it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. On this note,
you.
I would want to thank everyone for joining in. And ma'am, we had a very wonderful session with you with so many questions, and you answered them very patiently and with a smile on your face. So thank you everyone. Have a good day and Merry Christmas to all of you.
Thank you, everyone. Namaste.